Good afternoon once again from COP28. Very special guest on the last day of COP28, Mr. Bertrand Piccard. Who doesn't know him? The pilot who flew solo across the world on an electric plane, Solar Impulse 2, 7 years ago. Today we are in 2023, COP28. Where are we in terms of sustainable aviation in today's world?
The story of aviation starts again. Like the Wright brothers leading to the moon landing, now we are starting again with small planes that are fully electric, like H55, which is the technological spin-off of Solar Impulse. It's a startup in Switzerland that is now electrifying airplanes for training.
Existing planes.
Two-seater. They're electrifying seaplanes in Vancouver. They have a contract with Pratt & Whitney to electrify a 30-seater commercial airplane. So I would say up to 30 people, I think you will have batteries because it's very efficient. Above, it's probably going to be hydrogen for medium haul. And then for the long haul, we'll see. Maybe suborbital.
Yes.
Flying at 80 kilometers high, you can start with a rocket engine with hydrogen and oxygen, so it's clean.
Dubai
And
to
then-
Los Angeles in 2 hours.
Yeah, in
That
2
was
hours.
announced
Yes.
around 10, 15 years ago.
Yes, but it's absolutely possible. It's exactly basically what did Alan Shepard in 1962 or 63. 80 kilometers and you make a parabolic flight. And you just need the engine for starting, and the engine can very well be hydrogen and oxygen.
Yeah. Certification and getting that into reality. I know that you are very much into concept. That's exactly why you were the first one to fly the Solar Impulse 2. But what in terms of, there are many restrictions, including certification, adaptation, and people also to accept the concept of what you are mentioning. When do you see the commercial flights? I mean, what commercial flights you see the first? In terms of electric or what you just mentioned?
You really have two dimensions. You have the disruptive innovation, where
Which you love.
aviation is a beautiful example. When you see how little time it took from the Wright brothers to the speed of sound to the moon landing, this is one thing. Then it's absolutely true that you have the commercial acceptance, you have the certification, and all the airplanes that are flying today can still fly for 30 years.
Yes.
So how will the change happen? I don't know.
In terms of supersonic, as you know, we had Concorde around 55 years ago, and instead of going forward, we're going backwards. So no more supersonic, and the flight from Dubai, for example, where we are to the US, are still very, very long, 18 hours, 16 hours. Of course, you know that in a very busy world today, there are so many people would ask about supersonic. How do you foresee this?
I foresee that the only way to fly supersonic is extremely high altitude above the atmosphere, 80 kilometers, because you have no resistance and you don't waste your fuel. No way for supersonic inside the atmosphere with so much resistance and so much fuel consumption. The countries will not accept, the public will not
The
accept.
boom effect.
And for a couple of businessmen, I tell you, the countries will not give a clearance for supersonic airplanes burning so much fuel into their atmosphere.
So a new version of Concorde from any country, anywhere, is not possible.
I think the ecological concern today makes a lot of these type of things irrelevant today. Irrelevant. It's like having big SUVs to bring your children to the private school when there is no snow, where it's flat. People don't accept that anymore. You have activists who are destroying the tires of this type of vehicles.
But there are
So it goes into electric vehicles. It will not, it's irrelevant today to burn too much fuel, to waste fuel with the resistance of the air inside the atmosphere. It's a tremendous amount of energy that is wasted. So this is not the way to go. The way to go is to fly above the atmosphere where you just take a hydrogen-oxygen rocket to start, then you shut down the engine after 15 minutes, and you just go parabolic with no engine until you land on the other side of the world, and it's 2 hours to Los Angeles, yes?
Do you think that we will see this in our lifespan?
I think we're still young.
Yeah, in terms of certification, do you see a solid project that is really going to happen?
There is a project like this in Switzerland that is called Destinus, and I think it's clever because it is disruptive. Don't try to do the same that what was already done. Concorde was a page of history that is finished. Why do you want to reactivate it? It's done, it's finished, it's old tech. Now we need to go into something really disruptive, really innovative, really new, really interesting, and really ecological.
Hydrogen planes. As you know, basically Airbus announced 2 years ago in Toulouse that they are launching a complete hydrogen lineup because they need big sizes, right, for big planes, Airbus. And then we haven't heard more about it and about the entire hydrogen. Many people, including the global CEO of Dassault in France, raised major concerns on hydrogen as a whole, including green hydrogen. His Royal Highness Prince Abdulaziz bin Salman bin Abdulaziz, the Saudi Minister of Energy, raised major concerns in Qatar on hydrogen, green hydrogen. How do you position or how do you foresee the future of hydrogen?
I see it very positively, and that's why I'm preparing now a flight around the world non-stop in a hydrogen airplane. And Airbus is supporting me. A lot of industries are really excited about it because it is new, because we're trying something disruptive.
Okay. Business jets, aviation, where are we with this basically in terms of sustainable ones?
Well, it's a big debate because you have a lot of activists who are attacking the business jet industry when honestly it is such a small percentage of the global CO2 problem. So if we take aviation as a scapegoat, giving like an alibi to do nothing else and we're focusing on it, I don't think it's the way to do. We need to go for the lowest hanging fruits. What are the lowest hanging fruits today? It is terrestrial mobility, where we need electric vehicles. It is renovation of buildings. It is heat pumps. It is LED lamps. It is new processes for the industry and for the agriculture. And the Solar Impulse Foundation has identified more than 1,600 of these solutions that are extremely valuable to be more energy efficient, to be more independent from fossil fuels. This is really something interesting to understand.
Yeah. Many people focus on SAF. I hear a lot, SAF, 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 SAF. However, what is your take on this?
SAF is an interesting possibility to allow keeping the same type of engines. So it's a way to keep combustion engines to change as little as possible. And today, the question is how do you scale up the SAF? Because the SAF are made from waste,
Yes.
from cooking oil.
Yes.
So you imagine the number of French fries that you have to eat in the world to have enough cooking oil for flying hundreds of airplanes or thousands of airplanes. So there is a question of scalability because people are going to fight for the waste. Because with the waste with which you do the SAF, you also need to make fuel for other things than just aviation. So it will be competing.
Yeah.
And
so you don't see SAF as a real solution?
I never say something is impossible because I'm someone who loves to achieve the impossible, and I've showed it with Solar Impulse and the Breitling Orbiter 3 balloon. But today, it's difficult to imagine how you can put it at scale, have enough of SAF. Now, if we can, quite a good way to do, but I remind you that when you burn SAF, you still have NOx in the atmosphere. When you burn hydrogen, or let's say if you put hydrogen in a fuel cell to run an electric motor, you don't produce any toxical emissions, no CO2. So it will be really interesting to see if it will go more on hydrogen, fuel cell, and propellers, or more on SAF, in order to keep the jet airplanes as we see today.
Yeah, we are in the Middle East, as you know, with plenty of sunshine, and some said that there is a potential for ESAF.
Yes, the electrofuel. This is something really interesting because potentially you have no limit. Yeah. It's not like getting cooking oil or waste to make the fuel. You capture the CO2 from chimneys or from wherever, you combine it with green hydrogen, and it reconstitutes the chain of hydrocarbons. So you have synthetic kerosene that is burned, and the cycle is neutral. Now, the question is, if you capture the CO2 to make the electrofuel, maybe you can also put the CO2 in the ground and get less CO2, be carbon negative. So there will be a lot of arguments about what we do with this CO2 that we capture. Do we put it in the ground to get rid of it? Or do we put it back in the atmosphere with electrofuel? So it's a trade-off. It's not easy. So there is one thing that we have to do also, is to understand that cheap aviation is harming not only the environment, but also the airplane business. The people who fly only low cost because it's so cheap, you know, and they go somewhere just because it is cheap, not because they want to go somewhere. This is also a problem.
Yeah.
So I believe that the world of aviation has to integrate all the externalities in the price of the ticket. The passengers have to pay for the carbon they emit in order to have enough money to reabsorb the carbon elsewhere, and stop with a really cheap aviation that is detrimental to aviation. Maybe you don't notice that in the Arabic world, but in Europe you have really a lot of people who are fighting against low-cost aviation. They are even starting to ban national flights inside the country.
Like France did.
Yes, exactly. If you can replace a national flight by a train that is less than a couple of hours, then the plane is prohibited.
Yeah.
So this shows that there is a legal threat on aviation, maybe not everywhere, but in some countries, and we have to consider it.
Yeah. So basically, you are focusing and you are suggesting that hydrogen is the real solution.
Well, to summarize, I'm advocating for electric airplanes with batteries when it is
Short distances.
500 kilometers between cities, it is silent. It is
Genève, Zurich.
Genève, Zurich,
Genève, Lyon.
or Dubai, Qatar,
Okay.
Bahrain, or like this. This works with batteries. Then you need hydrogen airplanes for medium range. Maybe in the first step you have electrofuel or SAF for longer distance. I would love to see the suborbital flights for very long haul. And in any case, everywhere, you need to have the price of the CO2 inside the ticket in order to make an aviation that is integrating the externalities instead of being artificially cheap and too much pollutant. And this is really important for the image given by aviation.
Yeah. To be honest with you, myself, I am in Dubai. Flying to the US or to Australia is quite a long distance. I know every single flight takes around 18 hours, if not 19 even, 17, 18, 19, which is extremely long to go for a business trip, no matter how important it is. So you think that a flight from here to the US is half or less than that, or Australia would be possible soon?
I don't know what you call soon.
10 years, 5 to 10 years. In reality, fully certified, I fly from Dubai airport to Los Angeles in 5 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours, or to Sydney.
If you look back in the history of aviation, in 10 years' time, you had tremendous 10 or 20 years' time, you had tremendous success. From Charles Lindbergh to Chuck Yeager breaking the speed of sound, it was 20 years.
Yeah, exactly.
From Chuck Yeager breaking the speed of sound to the moon landing, it was 22 years.
Yes.
So you see that we can go very fast. Now,
we stopped.
Are we going to go fast enough for certification to have a hydrogen plane flying suborbital 80 kilometers altitude to go from Dubai to Los Angeles in 2.5 hours, this is a human question, administrative question, political question, financial question, more than technical, because technically people know how to do it.
Mr. Bertrand, thank you very much for being with us today.
With
It was
pleasure.
an honor, as usual,
With
to
pleasure.
have you.
Thank you to you.